I saw this video pop up on Zepla, and I'm curious what this is. She talks about shocking Endwalker rumors and info from the media tour. It'll be good to see if I missed anything in particular, because like I already did like a summary video on the main channel where I talked about the things that I was most interested in Endwalker. And if you guys haven't watched that video over on the main channel, you should. But let's see what Zepla has to say.
Hey Buns, so with all of the media tour information sort of out there in the open now, I wanted to go over some of the most shocking revelations that we got from all the press, the videos, the articles, the interviews with Naoki Yoshida, you name it. What was the most crazy new stuff that we...
I'm still jealous of everyone who interviewed Naoki Yoshida. I'm gonna keep saying this so that you guys can clip it and then send it over to Square Enix. Okay.
we learned about, because I'll tell you, even though I was at the media tour, there was some stuff I found out that surprised even me, and so I really want to go through all of that with you.
Is this going to be spoilers? I don't know. I don't think so, but let me just see the list of topics that she has here. Final Fantasy XIV is making a profit. The Great Hidden Platinum Moon Mystery. This might be a little bit spoilerish. Allen Sanctuary, no. Small scale hard content should be fine. Big job changes. Summoner vibe check. Monk vibe check. So yeah, I think you're fine. I think you're fine.
People that might have not been going through every single interview as carefully as I have, so that way you can get all caught up on stuff that...
Hey, I watched all those interviews very carefully, Zepla.
I do want to give a really big disclaimer here that media tour footage of jobs and stuff that
is subject to change.
All in development still, and it is still subject to change up until the launch of Endwalker. So keep that in mind. And, you know, when Naoki Yoshida is talking about different plans and stuff that he'd like to add to the game, like a lot of this stuff might be sort of up in the air still. So, just remember that as we go through some of the comments that he made about potential upcoming content. So for me, I think one of the biggest reveals was that Final Fantasy XIV is the most profitable Final Fantasy game of all time. Now this is...
I mean, you guys know that small franchise known as Final Fantasy? Well, 14 is the most profitable one of those. You know, it's a small franchise. I get it's not too big. Like most people haven't really heard of Final Fantasy, so you know it's not surprising that a lot of you guys may not have heard of Final Fantasy. You know, it is a small franchise, so you know. But this one's the most profitable one. This one's the one that has made the most money. Yeah, you guys remember when I kept telling people, listen, you guys need to understand, all right? I know that there's a lot of people that are like, dude, Final Fantasy VII is like the best Final Fantasy, but those people are wrong. Yeah, I'm sorry. There's also people like, oh man, Final Fantasy X, Final Fantasy IX, so good. Final Fantasy VI, there's a lot of people like Final Fantasy VI, and it's like, you're all wrong. 14's the best. 14 is the best. And not only the best, but also the most profitable one too. So... Just to let you all know, okay?
Actually something that they told us as soon as the media tour event started. Like we heard a speech from Naoki Yoshida in which he revealed this to all of us. And I mean, at first I was really surprised because Final Fantasy as a series is legendary. Like who hasn't heard about Final Fantasy? And to know that Final Fantasy XIV has done so well among this distinguished cast of like some of the best role-playing games ever made. I mean, it's awesome. I can't help but wonder if that's actually what caught the attention of the father of the Final Fantasy franchise, Hironobu Sakaguchi, who is now actually playing Final Fantasy XIV. Like he's showed
I have 2 videos
of
to
his
watch on this as well. 3.
Somehow or another, we all end up on that wagon, don't we? Hey, you're finally awake. But I mean, let's be real for a second, because we all want to believe that it's the sub fees, right? Driving the profit of this great game that we all love.
No, but in reality,
it's just such
Fantasia.
A good game that so many people are subbing, and it's just from that the game is so popular. But we know what it really is. It's the cash shop. Okay, it's the cash shop.
Yeah.
I don't know anyone who doesn't know at least one person who's a different race every single time you see them. Like you look away for 2 seconds, they're already a different race. Like I'm getting whiplash from some of these.
Okay, I feel called out. Okay, just because I've been to Lalafell twice, all right? Just because I've been a Lalafell twice, it doesn't mean anything. Okay? It doesn't mean anything.
People looking up at Ellison, oh, you're a Lalafell, oh, you're a Hrothgar, oh, you're a Lalafell. People that treat playing a Lalafell like an actual game of hot potato. Those things aren't cheap either. A Fantasia's what, $7-8 a pop? And I like to think that that money goes straight back into the development of Final Fantasy XIV, right? But like maybe every little Fantasia helps them build one more little crater on the moon. But I don't know how any of that stuff works. Oh, and then there's, like, don't even get me started. There's mounts, there's cute outfits, which I mean, I've done my fair share of buying cute outfits on my
Yeah, I bet you did.
Weddings. I mean, there's a ton of money, I'm sure, being spent every single day on the weddings because, I mean, I know a lot of people getting married more than once. The eternal bond ain't all that eternal. What I wanted to say is that the cash shop is a gold mine, or I guess it's
is there a divorce ritual? Is there a divorce ceremony that you can buy from the mall station? Who gets to keep the house? How does that work? Excuse me, sir, I'd like to get a divorce.
If you are one of those people that are buying job skips to get Gil, please don't do this. Please don't do this. Okay, there are better ways. The next thing I wanted to mention is...
That's funny. I actually had someone say this to me in a video, which was like, oh, you know that you can actually buy gold in Final Fantasy XIV. And I was wondering, what? And this person was like, yeah, if you buy the job thing, whatever you get, 500,000. I was like, wow. How many jobs are there in Final Fantasy XIV? FF14 jobs. Let's see. How many jobs are there? We have we have 4 tanks, 3 healers, and 7 DPSers. So 14. There's 14 jobs. No, wait, there's more DPSers. There's not 7 DPSers. There are 11 DPSers plus 7, 18 jobs. Plus 2 are going to have 20 jobs. So let's say, imagine that someone would actually pay enough money to boost all of their jobs to max level just for the purpose of getting gold. Because like when you run out of jobs, what you going to do? Create another character? Level up more jobs? I guess probably that would be the argument that they would make. But let's just take this exaggeration, right? Even if you leveled all 20 jobs to max through boosts, which I would definitely not advise because that is way too expensive, and you're only getting like 500,000 gil each time, that would net you a grand total of 10 million gil. 10 million gil. Okay? So let me explain something. I suck at making money in MMOs. I have 19 million gil. And I suck at making money. I'm really bad. I'm really bad at making gold in MMOs. And I have 19 million. It's like, let me tell you something. It's not a good idea to do that for money. So it's just like, because it's also obviously not intended. That's not the reason why you get those 500,000. 500,000 just so you have some pocket money because you're getting a max level character. Not even max level, 10 levels below max level.
Little vague, and this comes from my interview with Naoki Yoshida, which was awesome. I was so excited to actually have a chance to talk to him, the man, the myth, the legend. Naoki Yoshida. I actually got to interview him. Oh my gosh, that was so cool. So if you haven't seen that interview, you can check it out. In the description box, I'll put a link to it where I am like fangirling it so hard that even he's like, get a load of this. But he talked about something that was hidden from us in the media tour. And this was really weird, really vague, a really obscure thing that he said, but I just cannot stop thinking about it because it is so weird. And so it's just kind of stuck in my head as this weird mystery, this puzzle that I don't know what it means at all. So let me just refresh you in case you didn't have a chance to watch the interview yet. Link below. But I asked him about a comment that he had made in a previous interview in which he discussed the platinum color theme for Endwalker. Okay, so he had said that Shadowbringers had unique light weather conditions. Now, this was in the previous interview that I read about. And he had been preparing another surprise for players once again in the game that would involve quote, adjusting the game to fit the color theme. And now when I asked him this, like pretty much word for word, he said, oh, I should avoid spoilers like that. I got to be more careful. Okay. And then he got really mystical about the moon and like how in the moon, in the light of the moon, there's a fleeting moment in which it's platinum just before it's turning yellow or gold. It's like this really brief moment in time. And specific color is sort of the driving theme color for Endwalker. But he did say that there's nothing really in terms of the in-game colors that you would recognize as platinum. But there's two keywords that he didn't tell a single living soul about, not on the Japanese team, not even Foxconn heard about what these keywords are. And these keywords, along with this color, have been guiding his vision for Endwalker, and maybe we'll even know what they are by the end. Then he said, quote, in the game itself for the media tour, I had made sure to hide those areas where color plays a part and would surprise the player. But do rest assured, that actually is there. So you're just going to have to wait for Endwalker and find out and be surprised yourself. So
that's a whole lot of cryptic stuff.
That, like, they didn't let us see zones in which this hidden thing was. But yet he said it's not in terms of in-game colors. You wouldn't recognize it as platinum. Yet it has something to do with that. It has something to do with this color from the moon, the real moon. I am losing my mind over this.
She's
There's
like
so
the guy with the board
secret,
with
right?
all
There's
of the connecting dots
and
shit. She's like,
on this
let me tell you. Let me tell you about all these things
from us in the media tour, so that it would be a surprise when we all play. And it involves this color that I don't know if I've ever seen before in my life. It's a sort of color between colors only seen in the pale moonlight for the briefest of milliseconds. How does it fit together? I don't know. It's mystical. It's vague. It's not concrete. And that might be frustrating for some people who
actually
are
Zepla right now.
But this is what I have for you. This is the riddle as it has been laid out to me. So other pretty crazy news that I heard about the island sanctuary. So I'm going to be really careful with the way that I phrase this because I don't want anybody losing their heads here about what I'm about to say.
It is.
Anybody to be like, oh,
it is housing.
Confirmed. 100%.
I said it in my video, so it better be.
Housing, island sanctuary. Because, look, maybe something was lost in translation. Maybe he was just really tired. Or maybe it's just, it seems to me like this feels too good to be true. And
I think one of the things that we have to take into consideration here is what do you consider housing to be, right? Because housing in 14 is actually a really social thing. It's unlike, in other games where you have instanced housing. That's not what 14 considers housing. The housing in 14 is not like instanced. I mean, there are instances, of each individual house, but any player can just like walk in there. Well, I mean, assuming that you have permission or whatever, but you guys get the idea. These are social spaces. And it's like he specifically said in one of the interviews, you can place structures down, you can decide the materials, you can do all of these things. It's like, I'm just thinking like, that's housing. I mean, come on. You can place things down. You can decide how to build things in there. I think that's actually more than house. That's almost Minecraft in a way. Well, technically speaking, it would be more like, what's it called? Stardew Valley, whatever. So, yeah.
I can't help but feel a little suspicious. And I want you to be suspicious as well at this time before we get official big announcements. But he said what he said. And this is from the interview that Mione and Shenhai did. Yep. I'll put the link to this below. So let's just look exactly what he said, okay? I'm going to quote directly from the translator here. Yep. The concept is that you obviously have your own island. So you have at the start a blank canvas. And you're like, okay, what type of building do I want to place here?
Housing.
What type of materials do I want to gather? Maybe I want to let my minions run free in this island. Okay, so we're talking about placing buildings. That's pretty interesting. And minions.
You also talked about.
Well. Can I have
he also talked about
copies
furniture.
Of one minion running around, like just only bunnies.
He talked
running
about
around
furniture.
my
I'm
island,
pretty sure.
Right? Like a million bunnies. Sun's out, buns out. Well,
Ew.
it's not that kind of island.
It could be.
Not that kind of work. He went on to say, so of course there's content where there's a focus on the house, the garden, and the furniture.
The furniture.
And I think there he's
See?
referring to the current housing content that we have in the game now. But this Island Sanctuary, you could see as a bit of a rank higher because there's a bit more broad things in there in the mix.
Oh, so maybe you can't
So
use this
I'm
stuff.
hearing gardening, crops, minions, buildings, placing buildings. Is this private housing? I really want to get excited, but I'm
Seems
also
like it.
hesitant to allow myself to get excited.
We're
because
going to
I'm
make
like,
an
this is
ERP
just
Isle
such a big-
sanctuary. Goddamn
It
right.
sounds like housing 2.0, bigger, better.
Only cat girls and
housing,
bun
but
girls
I also
allowed.
feel like that's such big news. We should have heard about it by now. Why wouldn't they tell us about that before they told us about removing belts? It's something we should have heard about at the Endwalker announcement showcase a couple of months ago. So I'm a little suspicious, but I'm excited, and I will believe it when I see it. But I would really like to
It's
hear
the
your
end game.
take on this.
This is
in
literally the
comment
end
section.
game of
The
Endwalker.
next
You
really
guys think
crazy thing I
rating
heard
is
about.
the end game?
The
No, no, no.
small scale
Island
hard
Sanctuary.
content. Now, this is something
Getting
I
the
have been campaigning
best.
for on this channel for a long, long time. Usually,
Yes.
anytime anybody asks me what is something Final Fantasy 14
Small
means,
scale
I've
harder
been like,
content. Mythic Plus.
like something like small scale.
Give us
small group
Mystic
content
Plus.
That's going to be challenging and hard.
Let's
I
go.
know we have like, yeah, you can do deep dungeon with a small group, but if you've done that enough times, it kind of stops being difficult, right? So in Asmongold's interview with Naoki Yoshida, he had asked about
She's pointing out the same stuff I pointed out.
Challenging content for
Did
a
you
small
watch
group,
my
maybe
video,
4 people,
Zepla?
maybe even one person. Yoshida said, we are trying to see if we can plan for something in that vein, but I'm afraid I can't divulge on the details at this time. Okay. We do plan on another live stream after Endwalker releases, a letter from the producer, and I'm hoping we can share some details and updates on that. But the possibility for sure is there. So just take a look at his facial expressions while this is being translated, because I felt like Yoshi P was like he had the face of someone who
He's like, oh yeah.
cannot say something, is not allowed to say something, but is giving
Look at
you
that
some
face.
hints, like, like it could be, like that's the vibe I got from watching this. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Very possible. This is something I want very much.
There's 100%
So
going to
I'm
be more
biased.
challenge.
Okay.
Like listen,
but-
here's what you guys need to understand. The moment that Final Fantasy 14 does that, challenging content for a smaller group of players that is not just deep dungeons, right? The moment they add something else that fulfills that niche, that's it. That right there is the point of no return. That right there, to me, what I mean by the point of no return is like, that is something that can keep me addicted to the game until the end of times. Like just good dungeons that I can replay. Like, yeah, good 4-man dungeons, Tempest Hunters, like good challenging 4-man dungeons that I can just do over and over again with modifiers and like with, because that to me is cooler than raiding because it's easier to organize. Because the big thing about raiding is that it's hard to set up. It's hard to set up raids because you need scheduling, you need this, you need that, you need the other. Whereas just like getting 4 people together, not nearly as hard as getting 8 people together. So literally anything that even resembles Mythic Plus, like, boom, done. That's it. It's over. Owarida. I am just like gonna get in there, never leave. It's like you guys will see me coming out for air every month or so, and then I just like dive back in. You don't know how wild this 24? Well, right now they don't. Because right now there's not 24 players playing the game. The way that we did it in WoW is you just have like, you just take a couple of players that are just there to kind of like fill a spot. They're just there to the rank and file. They're the ones that are probably going to die in most of the mechanics, but when they don't die, they'll actually contribute a little bit to the fight.
That's what I want to believe. I feel like he's just being a little coy, sending signals. But I don't know if we really need Mythic Plus when you can just join a party with me, because I'm like an affix on my own. So I want to talk about the big, huge job changes that are coming to some of the jobs, namely Monk and Summoner. Now, we already knew that they were
Dude,
going
I
to be
kind of
getting some
almost
big
feel
changes,
like I want to play
but
Monk
I think
instead
that
of,
with all the Media Tour information
instead of
coming out,
Dragoon.
it was kind of shocking to some of those communities.
I should play
to see just
Ninja
the
too.
extent
I should
of
check
it
out all of
and
those
a lot of the
melee
more
jobs.
details about those changes. So I want to get into that. Yes, of course, we did already know about Sage and Reaper coming, so I'm not going to cover that. If you want to know about Sage and Reaper, I've got dedicated videos on those. I will link to below. But for today, I wanted to talk about how shocking it was for these communities to find out how much their job has changed. And like for Summoner, it's unrecognizable to what it was before. And I imagine it will be quite a shock for people that are logging in after Endwalker and have been totally unplugged from all of the news. But I think it's going to be a good shock.
There'll be riots in the streets.
I loved it.
People are going to go like, where are my
Doesn't mean
dots?
some people won't log in and just be like,
They ruined my class.
First, and I
What do you mean I can summon
what the
Titan?
Summoner community thought about everything. Like, what are the people who are most invested, most dedicated to this job feeling right now, since it's pretty much changing to a whole new job? So I reached out to our friends at Awk Morning. That is a resource that I actually use to learn Summoner, and it's traditionally been a resource for caster guides. I think they're starting to branch out now. And I just asked what they thought about the Summoner changes, because I mean, to me, you know, I'm more of a casual Summoner player, and I'm like, I see Garuda booty on demand. This is a quality redesign. The team got back to me and they said that Endwalker Summoner has an excellent aesthetic and thematic design, and that it's a very strong foundation with the rework, but they'd like a little more there to fill in the gaps. They said that the new summons and their elemental attunement actions provide some depth and choice, but play out in a strict manner. So basically, it's great that you can choose between Ifrit, Titan, or Garuda, but once you've done so, the best next buttons to press are pretty much set in stone. The general spell toolkit has been streamlined so that your main GCD choices are between 1 or 2 target spells or 3 or more target spells. And through this, it has incredible mobility. You've got a ton of instant casts, very few hard casts, and these changes are going to make the job a lot easier to pick up and play. Demi, Bahamut, and Phoenix will now automatically attack the target that you attack, which will make them a lot more responsive with their enkindles. But it does have a lack of OGCDs to use, where energy drain and 2 ether flow stacks a minute could be addressed with a shorter cooldown. Ruin 4 would warrant a change, as it doesn't mesh well in the kit. They also
I completely agree. Yeah, exactly. Those are my thoughts too. You know, when I first saw the Summoner changes, you know, my brain just started going. It's like just like that. It's almost like they pulled the words directly out of my brain, because that's exactly what I was thinking, word for word, about Summoner. Right, guys? I mean, I know that you are all thinking it too, because I mean, we're all just like expert summoners over here. So I mean, it was obvious. It was blatantly obvious, right? I mean, come on. I have no idea what any of that shit meant.
also told me that they want everyone to feel encouraged, to feel excited by the Summoner rework, but they didn't want to sugarcoat potential issues either. So yeah, I mean, it seemed to me like the vibe was generally positive about it, with some reasonable concerns that I think are coming from the fact that, to me, the job feels like the framework for the house upon which they are going to be adding more Summoner spells and abilities in the coming years. Like, I feel like they maybe didn't want to add too many extra bells and whistles into the mix that could potentially break things and make the balancing way more complicated when it's like a brand new job entirely. I heard some concerns about Summoner maybe having too much mobility for what should even be allowed on a caster, but I mean, look, I'm a dancer main. Look, to me, there's no such thing as too much mobility, and if it means it breaks the boundary of what a caster should even be allowed to have, I'm fine.
None of that is even casts. What the hell?
Oh, and you get a res on top of it. So I mean,
dude, how's Summoner gonna have more mobility than a red mage? Excuse me, I have objections. Red mage should always be the most mobile of casters. She's right. We need a nerf dancer mobility now.
Hype, in my opinion. The other job getting massive changes is Monk, though nowhere near as much as Summoner. Like, you will still recognize this job when you log in, but it's got sort of a mini game type system at the core of the new 6.0 gameplay, revolving around a masterful blitz, which is like you want to get different combinations of glyphs in your job gauge to pull off a really powerful attack. And it's totally new, and And from what I've seen, the general reaction has been positive, but like with Summoner, I really wanted to know how the more hardcore part of the monk community felt about these changes. So I actually reached out to Aya Liz, who got World First Uwu and World First Eden's Gate on Monk. They also wrote a very in-depth document that I'll link to below for
Holy
all
crap.
the known changes to the job, expectations for the job in 6.0. So I will link that. But I asked Aya, like, how do you feel, like, in general about what we know about Monk so far? And they said, gameplay-wise, there are things to like and things to dislike with the direction.
Okay, I'm not playing Monk then. Listen,
the Blitz
if there are things to dislike, I'm not interested.
system is somewhat open-ended in terms of what could be optimal with it on any given fight, which is a breath of fresh air after the incredibly static burst windows of Shadowbringer's Monk. But leaving a Natman the same has been baffling to everyone when that skill can barely justify its own hotbar slot. And yeah, I mean, I'm no Monk main, but even I know about the meme status of a Natman. And there's some worry that Monk will feel empty outside of burst windows since the basic GCD loop is the same it's been for many expansions, but now with fewer positionals and OGCDs to keep you on your toes. Yeah, a couple of the positionals are being removed from Monk.
Yes.
I actually spoke to another dedicated Monk main who also echoed these same concerns about Anatman being unchanged and super niche still, as well as worries that monks might even need a 25-second pre-pull before bosses to get their hardest hitting buttons in the opener. And I said, well, hey, look, hold up. It's a media tour build. It's in development, subject to change, right? I mean,
yeah,
what
Monk
if potencies
sucks.
change? Would you still need
Yeah,
25
sucks.
seconds on the pre-pull?
I'm not playing it.
And he didn't think that
There you
potency
go.
changes would make a difference at all. But we'll know for sure on launch, of course. He did say that in the Monk community, the overall vibe on the changes is a bit mixed. They seem very good at first glance, but it's in the theory crafting side of things when it comes to openers and rotations.
Yeah, I'm
that's
gonna play
slightly
Ninja
worrying,
instead. There you
especially
go.
if you're trying to play the
Gonna
job
level up
in
a
an
Ninja.
optimal sense. And if that's the case, Monk hasn't changed anywhere near as much as I thought. So what are you most hyped about from all of the media tour information? What I've covered here today is just a small
Zepla, let me tell you exactly what I'm hyped about. Listen, Zepla, have you seen the job trailer? Let me show you. I'll show you. Right, watch this, guys. Watch this. Endwalker job trailer. I'll show you exactly what I'm most excited for from everything. Media tour, announcements, everything. Let me show you exactly what I'm mostly excited for. I'm trying to find the exact pinpoint. Listen, Zepla, this is what I'm most excited for right here. Look at it. Here it comes. Here it comes! Here it comes! Are you ready? Boom! And boom! 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 That's what I'm most excited for. It don't get much better than that.
part
The
of it is
sword
just stuff
bringer.
that stuck out to me the most, that I found, that I've been thinking the most about. I'm looking up at the moon at night and trying to see that platinum color and just asking myself, what does it mean? If you like this video, please consider supporting the channel on Patreon or on Twitch. You can also support the channel for free. Oh, but wait. I want to tell you that I have started a second channel called Zepla Live. I will link that below, where I'm going to be
she's
posting
putting
all of
clips.
my Twitch clips, my Twitch highlights and stuff. That's going to be on that separate channel.
That's
So
smart.
if you are not able to always make it to my Twitch streams, well, that might be a handy thing
That is
to
very
sub to.
smart.
So anyway, yes, thank you for watching. You can support the channel for free just by clicking that subscribe button or by sharing this video with your fellow Warriors of Light. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye. That is really good stuff. I still think that, the the Island Sanctuary is going to be basically private housing. Basically private housing. What if they removed Paladin swords and gave them gun lances? Now listen. What if they removed Paladin swords and gave them that sweet axe that dude from is the Lubrum Regini? No, it's the other one. Which one's the first one? There's Elriata, Lacus Latori. What if they give us the axe from the guy at the end of Lacus Latori? That's what I want. I want a one-handed axe. A one-handed axe and a shield. Now that's what I'm talking about, dude. You give me a one-handed axe and a shield, and I'm a happy camper. Like just grab like one of the warrior axes, right? Make it a little bit smaller and give it to me. Actually, no, don't even make it smaller. Just cut the handle in half. You know, just let it be fucking huge. Just cut the handle in half and give me the beefy axe, and then swap the animation on the follow-ups of. Damn it! Why is the name escaping me right now? The confetti or follow-ups. And swap the animation to dropping big, massive axes too. What about a mace? No, not a mace. A hammer. A hammer. I'll take a hammer, not a mace. You know, one of those big hammers, big like Thor-like hammer. I'll take that. But Ruri, axes are bad historical weapons used only by poor peasants. Really, Virtual Core? Tell you what, stand in front of me and give me one. I'll show you just how bad it is historically. Okay, you just have to stand in front of me, give me one. I'll show you.